What follows is a discussion I had with Craig Shipman, the host and powerhouse behind Third Floor Wars, the media empire. We talked about a session he recently ran for one player in Call of Cthulhu through a scenario called Masks of Desire. Obviously, this kind of discussion, one game master to another game master about a session that they ran, will involve spoilers. So if you're a player of Call of Cthulhu and it's at all possible that your keeper uses published scenarios, this is one maybe not to watch, or at least talk to your game master first to see if they have any intention of running Masks of Desire. If not, great, watch on. The purpose of this is to talk through what can be done for the next session. And that's it, really. So we'll open up with Craig talking about the situation, and then we'll get into things that we can do from an improvisational standpoint, and with the goal of taking a situation which right now has put the character in quite a passive or receiving posture in terms of play, and break out of that flow so that the character and the player are in a position to be proactive. Anyway, take it away, Craig.
Well, let me start off by saying, you gave me almost an hour's worth of feedback on the first session, which was really valuable. And I think you saw sometimes obviously and sometimes subtly the frustrations I was having with the scenario. So I think you're aware of this, but maybe other people aren't. Like, I typically like to start with a scenario concept and then I see where it goes. So that's nothing new. And mistakenly, this was a very rushed thing. I was just like, hey, I got nothing to do on Sunday. Why don't you roll up a character and let's play one-on-one Cthulhu? Because I've never done that before. And Nick's a good buddy of mine.
Right.
And Nick is always like, and let's play. So I read like the first couple pages of this and I'm like, oh, cool premise, right? Yeah. Like, I like this. And so then book it, so on and so forth, makes his character. And I don't know, about 12 hours before we go live, I read the rest of it. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. And I want to preface this by saying this is not a commentary on Lynn Hardy, who I'm a huge fan of her work. And it's not a commentary on the two other ladies that wrote this. It just isn't my thing. And so it's Mask of Desire. It's in the new Does Love Forgive book from Chaosium. And the premise is great. Right. So you've got this triad. You've got the player character. You have got a love interest who is an aspiring singer who wants to, be successful. And then you've got a friend of both of them. And you get to decide if there's a love triangle or anything along those lines. Right. So I thought it was interesting if Curtis, who's the character, and Anna, had a thing, but don't have a thing right now. Lucas is obviously interested. And they go to this dinner party, and I loved the dinner party when I read it. I loved everything about it. I loved the exotic nature of it, the class divide. Right. Some of the characters, like the professor, I had a ton of fun playing. And I had fun playing the hostess as well.
Right.
And so the idea is that there's this mask that exists, and if you put on this mask, it basically melds into your face, and for a cost and mechanically sanity, it allows you to get what you desire by becoming what you desire. So if you wish you were prettier, it'll make you prettier to everybody who sees you. If you wish you were more assertive, it'd make you more assertive, and so on and so forth. And I liked the Chandler busting down the door part with a crazy guy with a knife, right? And I was like, That's cool, because I always like having something like that in my back pocket if my player is struggling a little bit. You just have that there when you can feel things slowing down, and I could tell Nick was struggling. So I had him bust down the door. So then I have him go back to the brownstone. The package I thought was neat. He didn't pick up at all on the guy that was outside to try to take the package, or at least I get a sense that he didn't pick up on it or do anything with it.
Well, he may have decided not to do anything about it.
Yeah, which is fine too, right? Yeah. And it ends with her putting on the mask, and she comes out, and Curtis is obviously impacted by her wearing this mask. Though at this point, Nick nor Curtis have any idea. Even though they've handled the mask, they have no idea what's going on. So the way that the rest of the adventure goes, and I'm going to be a little flippant, but I have to be honest. It doesn't matter what the player does. Like they go to the audition, and maybe she's wearing the mask, maybe she's not wearing the mask, maybe Lucas wears the mask, maybe Lucas doesn't wear the mask, and that's the end of the adventure. And then you got this Tanaku guy who's wants to secure this for the Japanese government because of the war war that's about to rage with China.
Right.
And then it's just like, well, okay, like I don't, and the player character is passive through the whole thing. And that's what happened in session 1. Though I think Nick had fun. I had a lot of fun. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for Nick to play.
Right.
And I'm taking responsibility for that. So I don't want to make it sound like that's the scenario's fault. That's my fault. Right.
Always show me on the diagram where the bad scenario touched you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm still the GM, for crying out loud. Yeah. But now I don't know what to do.
Now you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I really don't, because I don't want to do what I did last time, which is just to allow him to watch a movie about Call of Cthulhu, which is kind of what he did in the first session. And I planted a couple things. Like I made Lucas's father a presence, because I wanted to be able to potentially use that.
Right. Like maybe Lucas is a bit of a pawn.
Exactly. You read in the scenario what the mask is, and the mask is like, it's a relic of some cult.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I want to ask you about your reactions. I looked over the scenario, not terribly deeply, but I looked over the scenario last night. So my first question is, did you and Nick make the character of Curtis together with the discussion of what kind of relationship do you want to have with Anna and Lucas?
So yeah, that exposition that you heard in the session was for the audience, not for Nick.
Okay.
So Nick knew what the relationship was. He knew his feelings for Anna and that whole history. And I probably could have, in a much more elegant way, revealed that to the audience, but I just dumped it.
Yeah. Well,
but Nick made the character.
It's not like he's going to have that conversation. He's not going to be talking to himself about what he knows, right? And it would be kind of weird if he goes into a soliloquy or something. Right. There she is, the woman who once dumped me, that then we got back together, and then I once, that's not going to happen either. So at a certain point, if we want this information to come out, but also as a valid game master technique, there are times when you have to provide context, of how you see the character and how you're trying to provide a situation or a setting or an interaction, so that they get where you're coming from. And we can realign these expectations, and that's one of the ways to do it. Here's the
quick recap. Yep.
People go, oh, right, and they remind themselves that they're playing a reporter, that it's the 1920s, or the scenario was originally written as being put in 1932.
Yep.
And so it's a very interesting time period, with a maddening widening gap of rich and poor, which seems awfully like 2022.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that I don't think it was a conscious choice on my part not to do that. It's what I'm used to, is pre-depression Call of Cthulhu. But to your point, it could have been thematically even more interesting in the 30s.
I mean, the 20s are this ramp up to the boom before the bust, and it's a decade of madness and experimentation, and the effect on a large part of the population of World War I and other global events. There's the bottom has kind of fallen out of the world, and philosophically speaking, nihilism is out there, and it's pre-existentialism, which maybe is a friendlier, more accessible way to think about the world in this context. I mean, there's a lot of juicy reasons to put it in the 20s. So you had the conversation, the character was built. Did it feel like this aspect of let's discuss the romantic boundaries, did that take some of the teeth out of the scenario?
I don't know. How so?
Like, as you go through, as you read it, it's it's making it clear that it doesn't matter what orientations are, what genders are. It's the relationship that matters. It's the whole scenario is about the relationship. But before you play, you are asked to determine what kind of relationship outcomes are possible. So it can be a scenario about a romantic relationship where romance is off the table, or it can be about a relationship where falling in love again is off the table, right? So a lot of the room for improv in the moment is prevented by decisions made based on what someone thinks they might be comfortable with in a scenario. So it seems a little bit like giving an opportunity to play with a little used subject matter, but also, so you're giving with one hand and taking back with the other. Right.
I don't think I'd thought about that, Anthony, but I do know that I didn't want to decide how, like, the whole reason that I emphasize the relationships is to create stakes for the player. I wanted Curtis to care about Lucas, who could end up being a villain in this story, or a pawn. And I obviously wanted him to care about Anna. Where this ends up, I'll follow Nick.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in the background, we have Tanaka, the guy who's trying to reclaim the mask. So who knows what the mask is, what it does, and has certain clues as to what its location is.
Yeah.
So we've met the professor and we've met Tanaka. They're both at the dinner party. Curtis has kind of interacted with them, or at least he's heard them having a conversation.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about how proactive you want Tanaka to be? Because in the writing of the scenario, he's there as just in case things fall flat or whatever, you can
do another Chandler, and have him and his bodyguard show up, right? And I think where I'm struggling, so I'm fine with that, and I think that the other thing I'm trying to do too here, Anthony, is remember what is a truth so far. So there's a lot in that scenario that's not true, right? As far as our game is concerned, right? So there's only a small handful of truths. I don't think Nick understands the mask, nor does Curtis, right? So I don't think he thought that the madman that broke down the door was wearing the mask.
Well,
he might
the spot hidden check where he could have seen something strange about the face.
Right.
This is missed. So,
and I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea whether he thinks she's wearing the mask. I think he's got to suspect something, right? Now, Curtis may not, but Nick does.
Right. We don't have any reason for Curtis to suspect anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't read the Chinese characters, or the kanji characters in this case. He doesn't have the ability to read them. The English note doesn't pertain to that. He hasn't had an interaction about, it belongs in a museum,
right?
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've already retranslated the kanji characters because I thought that their translations was meaningless again. Like as a GM, I'm like, why this? I don't know. If I was playing and that was the translate, if I, they were deliberately put in the box with the mask, and the only thing that matters is the third one that says blood. The other two really don't offer anything. So I've kind of got a little 3 clue rule going for those translations in my back pocket.
That's helpful because someone who did read them, there's recognized them. Like there's characters in there that I recognize just from day-to-day life living here in Korea.
Yeah.
But their particular meaning as an isolated character is different from how it all translates out. And so if the person was able to speak the language and read that transliteration of the language, then they would not be going at it from this simple one-word definition point of view. So that overly complicates that particular puzzle. But
so maybe what would be helpful, Anthony, is if I get a sense of what like hopes and wishes, right? So I do love the scene where they find the madame dead, go back to the apartment, she's dead, and then they find the madman in the box with his face torn off. Like
right.
That's why I play Cthulhu, right? It's for shit like that. So I do like that. But I don't want that to be the end of the horror aspect. And it kind of is in the scenario.
But we have to remember that the through line is the relationship, right? These are scenarios bundled together on the opportunity to play with love, rather than just you're an investigator who's hired, you're an investigator whose relative has perished, you're an investigator who stumbles across it's not that, right? So this is the mythos kind of invading your life in a bit.
Yeah.
In a one-shot format, it's kind of unfortunate, right? Because imagine playing a campaign, and this is like a year into the campaign, and Anna, who's a background character, is now moving into the foreground because her singing career could take off if she just had if she was just a little bit more assertive. And this is something that we like in Delta Green, if this is like a bond, right? Anna's one of the characters' bonds, and things are starting to get a little shaky. We've pulled on Anna a lot, and she's starting to crumble. And then, but in a one-shot format, we have to say she is important to you, right? Always remember she's important to you. I think you've done a great job of bringing her to life, right? We saw her nervous before the party. We see her silent in the party, right? I loved how she was surrounded by a ring of 8 men, and we don't have any description of what she's doing. And the hostess is kind of like overriding everything, saying, well, maybe after she's had some wine, she might be willing to, and we're all guessing she might be willing to sing for us. She's already said, I'm not going to sing. So this is kind of interesting. Which
I did nothing with.
Well, the guy kicked in the door. So, if we have a reporter character, I think that a player of a reporter has to feel like they have time to investigate.
I agree.
Because it's very easy to make the decision, even in a solo game, to not do the thing that's going to take a lot of time. So the time for the audition has to, leave the character enough room to go dig things up.
Well, but I don't necessarily think, and you mentioned this in your feedback, like you said before you read, because you gave me the feedback before you read the scenario.
Right.
You flat out said, I hope the audition isn't the next scene and I hope it's not the end. And I agree with you. I don't think that's how the scenario ends at the audition, because I don't think that it offers any type of arc whatsoever.
So if we have part of this will depend on what Nick as the player sees as a starting point.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I were playing that I would immediately go back to Madame de Tisson's.
There's no reason to.
Right? It feels like that's done now. If he sits down and thinks about it and says to himself, well, the mask must have come from there. Why do I care about the mask? Well, Lucas and Anna go into the room. They're in there for a while. Then she comes out and she's really different. If that connection to the mask is not obvious, then I think there's going to be some kind of interaction with Lucas again, like another apology or so. I mean, we could kind of prompt that a little bit by Lucas is still upset, right? He comes out, he's in awe of Anna, right? This is amazing. You're gonna kill it, and then he sees Curtis, and his mood breaks, kind of thing. And hey, man, I'm really sorry that I opened the box. And we can do all kinds of camera tricks of they're having a conversation in the open doorway, and behind Luke, like over Luke's shoulder, we can see the open box, and there's nothing in it.
Right. And that's, so here's some of the ideas that I've been spitballing. Just thinking about the opener, still not knowing really what's next. Right. But I was thinking, I think I need Anna to leave.
Right.
So I think she's going to come out. I might even make Nick do a sand roll and just say, there is a dissonance in your mind because you saw her last night, you put her to bed, you've seen her in the morning 1,000,000 times. You saw her go into the room and come out, and she impacted you. So I think I want to make it clear. It's not that she looks prettier. I really want to talk about she feels prettier, that you feel drawn to her in a way that part of you knows wasn't there 5 minutes ago. But then I think, she says, I've got lunch with Emily. And she's going to, with confidence, right? I'm excited about tonight. I want to throw some ideas at Emily about maybe some of the songs I want to do. Love you, Curtis. Thanks so much. Lucas, you're the best. Just a different Anna. Right. And then she floats out of the room. Right. And then I do think the empty box is real easy. And maybe have that with Lucas there. Right. So he can see that he looks over his shoulder and he sees the open box and the empty bag draped over the box. So here's a question for you then, Anthony, because I've been playing with this is, I think Lucas did know what the mask was, or had an idea what the mask could do, whether it be his father or for whatever reason he knows. And I've got some ideas about the father. She puts on the mask, and I'm imagining, and I've been thinking about this, that it could have been quite horrific for Lucas to watch. Of watching this woman he cares about putting some of her own blood on this mask, and she puts this mask on, and him having no idea that this thing would meld into her face. And then to see this dramatic change in front of him, and then she just walks out, not even the person that he loves. Like, this is where we have to decide who Lucas is, right? And I think that has a huge impact. So from a writer's room standpoint, is there a version of Lucas you think is more interesting?
I like the idea that what was coming to my mind when you were talking about, I'm here to pick this up for my father, right? My father sent me, my father arranged with you, right? So what if, Lucas has his overcompensation hairstyle,
right?
Right. He wants to stand out. Well, why does he want to stand out? Well, because actually he doesn't. He's a failed artist in the scenario, but he felt I thought he was a lawyer or something, like working for his father, but he's unimpressive in every way. So the father is doing to Lucas what Lucas is trying to do to Anna. Lucas is trying to make himself feel better by making Anna successful. This provides him, he can bask in the glow of her radiance and say, I did that. She's nothing without me, and that kind of stuff. That kind of sickness. Why does Anna not like Lucas in that way in your version of this scenario? Right? What is the reason? Because maybe she senses
Mm-hmm.
that that he's not good enough for her in some way, or he's got a lot of growing up to do, or
Yeah.
this kind of stuff, right? He's
Yeah,
still
I have not decided that, so that's wide open, which is good.
And then, why do things not work out with Curtis? Well, maybe it's too late. Maybe they really missed their window, kind of thing. As a reporter, he's never around.
Yep.
And she obviously needs a lot of support, because she lacks the one thing she lacks is the confidence. She's got the talents, she's got the looks, but she doesn't have the assertiveness, right? So this mask is going to give her assertiveness. And so what will she do with assertiveness? Well, she's going to reveal the character flaws of these gentlemen, right? Lucas kind of forces the mask on her, and maybe there's going to be some blood trace also to see, right? Like drips on the floor or something like that. But instead of like, oh, thank you, Lucas, this was such a great idea, she just leaves.
Yeah.
She sweeps out.
And I'm imagining her being dismissive.
Yeah.
And almost a sinister version of the Madame, right? So the Madame was very like harmless, dismissive, like just just a rich person who really doesn't mean harm but doesn't know any better, right?
Kind of, disassociated with the truth.
Exactly. There's no concept of reality, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm imagining like this being very drastic, and I like that idea, Anthony, of it really, like, we'll see if it impacts Curtis, right? That's up to Nick, but I can control how it impacts Lucas,
Right.
and I could see it being devastating to Lucas.
Right.
Like literally saying, I'm going to go to lunch with Emily. Lucas, you're a love. Maybe I'll catch up with you before the audition. I don't know. You might be busy. You may not even want to come. Curtis, thanks for the bagel, grabs the bag of bagels and just walks out.
Right.
That could have a lot of impact.
Or even, so she was very specific about what kind of bagel she wanted.
Yeah.
She just looks at the bagel and, right, that's like a tier of of culinary delight that she no longer wishes to descend.
I'll just order some, get a croissant with Emily, and she pops the bagel back in the bag. That's excellent. I like that. It's a good detail, real good detail.
So then at some point we've had some kind of conversation with Lucas, because they're both affected by her departure. But at some point, Curtis, the reporter, the onus comes back onto him.
Yep.
Right. And as the player, especially with a week in between, he may be sitting there thinking that he's not really sure where to go or what to do. And never having played, I'm pretty sure not having played Call of Cthulhu before.
Yeah, and Nick is new to role playing too, so he plays way beyond his years. He's only been playing for a year and a half, and he's very good at it. But part of the reason that I wanted to do the one-on-one with him is when he's playing in a group on my channel, I want him to be a little bit more assertive as a player. He's very passive as a player, and he lets everybody else play, and then he'll jump in if I force the spotlight on him. And I think he's better than that. And I think he would have more fun there. And I was hoping to do that by doing the one-on-one, but I ended up overshadowing him in the process. But
well, you had a lot of help. There are so many characters to introduce.
Yeah.
And there's such a specific purpose for this scenario. And the only way to get there is exposition. So The suggestions I gave in feedback were partly, about that. Instead of having discovery at each stage, right? We can front load some of these things. So by the time they get to the party, they know who to expect as the hostess, so that there can be interaction with the hostess instead of the tidal wave of the hostess and stuff like this. But that's for a second running, and maybe more importantly, that's for this type of scenario being put into a campaign.
Yeah,
because I think Call of Cthulhu really has its bite when these supporting characters from their environment begin to be affected by cosmically important things.
Yeah.
But he may not realize how he can investigate.
Right.
So like a pregame discussion of the specific skills on the sheet that are reflecting him being a reporter and the type of reporter that he is. And, the idea that, there's the tombs in the newspaper office with all the old articles, and there are files on everybody.
Yep.
Like index card files on all the movers and shakers and every crime that was reported, and there's someone down there whose job it is to help the writers and editors verify these facts. That he has some ways to find out if there have been other strange events, or if what exactly is this Madame de Tisson connected with? Where does her money come from?
Right.
Etc. Some other source other than what Lucas told them. That kind of thing. And he might want to. The mask so far doesn't seem to have any real reason to investigate, unless we've got some strong reaction to open box and cloth bag and blood on the floor. And like, if this suddenly I've got to learn about these masks, he might make a beeline to her, to Madame de Tisson, to ask about the mass. The scenario seems to expect them to go to the professor,
right? Which I think is a big jump.
Experienced Call of Cthulhu players would do, because they've got lots of experiences in their back history of play where they didn't go to the obvious expert on whatever study, and they got lost, and then eventually got pushed into contact with that person. I'm not sure that I would want to. I might be more interested in Tanaka, for example. I've got this note with these things, with these this message in an Asian language on it. But I would only go to Tanaka because it's a role-playing game, and this is a named NPC.
Right.
I would prefer to go to some other expert, maybe at the newspaper, or so I think there should be multiple avenues for getting it translated and getting it out there openly. But once he knows that the masks are important, then what?
Well, exactly, right. And that's where I need to make some decisions. So there's 3 handouts. And this is what I was, I have the flexibility of Nick can't read the language, neither can I, right? So we can make it say whatever we need it to say. So anybody watching who can read it and saw the handout was like, what the hell is Craig doing? But so I was going to have the box lid.
A television viewing audience anyways.
So for the box lid, I was going to say the face feeds desires to bring all desired, or something along those lines. And then there's a paper inside the box. It says feed desire, and then I kept the symbol on the inside of the mask as blood. Just like, but he's got to get that translated, right? Which he might do.
And I think have access to them, but Lucas has
to leave, right? And so back to Lucas. And so I love the idea of Lucas being devastated. I guess my next question I need to figure out is is he pissed? Because I also could see a situation where Lucas is like, what the hell? Like, this is not what I was told it was going to be. And the question is, who is he mad at? Is he mad at Madame de Tussaud, or is he mad at his father?
Well, you could really ramp the drama up by Lucas is vulnerable. He's there. He's mad. He doesn't know who to be mad at, yet he's mad at Curtis for Curtis is a great target. Right. But then Dad shows up. Did you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Dad storms into the room, throws the door open. There's the box. And who did you give it to?
Yeah.
Right? And, the weakness of Lucas, who has seemed pretty strong in his relationship with Curtis, right? He's been bullying Curtis all along. So now we get to see why is Lucas the bully, because he's not. He's a coward. He's a ineffectual person. Dad is unimpressed and is like, we can get a refresher on, I sent you to the party to get the mask, right? And you didn't get it, right?
What if Anna wasn't supposed to get the mask?
Well, of course he was supposed to get the mask.
Yeah.
He was supposed to get the mask, right? Dad wants Lucas to man up, right? And so this is it. This is the last straw, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I like that. I like that. So Lucas is just like, I'm going to put it on Anna. Like I get a sense. I think I know what this thing does. And then Anna leaves with the mask and his father shows up. And it's like, shit. I like that. All right.
Lucas is the kind of character who wants the praise without doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looks like an artist without being a successful artist. And his father saying, I can't believe you're trying to be an artist. Right? We're supposed to be ruling the galaxy together as father and son.
Exactly.
So then they can have this argument in private, but they're in the brownstone, right? It echoes, right? Curtis can't help but overhear. Even if he leaves, right? They can hear it screaming out the window, this dramatic breakup. Like, you go get that mask back, even if you have to tear it off her face, kind of thing. And then
okay. All right. So then I love that. Absolutely love that. I had not thought about the father showing up. And Curtis, let's say Curtis investigates, does library, does city hall, whatever he ends up doing. I'm trying to think of what I want him to find. Right. And this gets, I think, to a question I definitely have to answer, which I hadn't answered. I left open on purpose, is why does the father want it? Because you could have a range of things, right? The father is connected, knows, just like Tanaka knows, that this thing exists and what this thing is capable of. In no way is he involved in the occult, and in no way does he have any, he just knows there's this, this thing that's going to make him even more powerful, right? And more effective. Or he could also be like, so one of the things I was playing around with is, what if the father's a mastermind, and what if the father did want to get this on Anna so that Anna could use that mask to sing all across the country as part of this band, as some huge occult, scenario. And I was like, I guess just wicked convoluted. So I didn't like that.
If he and Madame de Tisson are in the same kind of social level, right? He's a money man,
right?
And she keeps going to him, right? So he's had enough exposure to her to realize that she has some,
right?
There's some truth, right? And so he learns that that there is a way to make his useless son useful. So he's calling on a favor, right? She doesn't want to give him the mask,
right?
But he's like, enough, that there's no more money, right? So Lucas shows up and, I don't have it. All right.
I could have the father walk in and immediately grab his face and turn it and look under the chin and go, where is it? And then push him aside and see the empty box.
Right. So we can have all of that, and it can happen really, really fast, right? So that it feels like the kind of emotional assault. And so we can get to the Curtis's active part.
Yep.
Bastard, right? So he'll be, this undoes the, or it ends the delay caused by the failed spot hidden.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all great. And then, you know, father says something like that. That's it. He was willing to cut off Madame de Tisson. Now he's done with his son, right? I want you,
Yep.
I want all of you out of this brownstone, you know, at the end of the day, something like that.
Yeah.
And so Curtis can be brought into things in a variety of ways. The police could be outside, having found the body of the delivery boy. Who's willing to kill? All this boy did was deliver this box, right? And then, you know, the police are asking questions. Where did he come from? He's still got the address paper, so they know where he went. So, you know, well, that you know, the bagel guy could be saying, well, that guy lives at that address, you know, something,
right?
Something.
Yeah, I mean, the delivery boy had his little notebook on him that showed his deliveries, and the last one that wasn't crossed off was
right,
this brownstone. Yeah.
So he can be, if he's not able to confidently navigate toward where he can investigate, then the investigation can kind of pull him in a little bit. You know,
yep.
Somebody has killed this delivery boy. What did they deliver? Well, they delivered a mask. Where did the mask come from? Right. Well, we're going to send cars around to go talk to that woman. So if he tries to race the police there to talk to her first, that's fun. If not, then as a reporter, right, he can get a call saying, weren't you at that party last night? Well, you know, the hostess turned up dead, right? Yep. Her face was, you know, and there was another guy there with his face torn off. And
yep. What do you think? What do we give a fully successful investigation by Curtis? What are things that
he has to be able to save Anna?
Right. So we got to figure out a way for that to happen, right?
Or
a path,
or to join with Anna. Well, whatever. But
yeah,
but the story is about their relationship. It's not about the masks. The masks are a way to make us care about the change in Anna, right? Or the change in Lucas. But we're not in that story where it's a change in Lucas. Anna has the mask. Is she going to give it up now that she's got this feeling? You know.
Well, so I think it's interesting, you know, they make it clear, and I like this, is that she's the only one that can take the mask off, right? Nobody can take it off of her. We see what happens when Madame did that to the madman, right? To the guy with the knife. And I think it'd be very interesting off screen, unless he's like, I know you're wearing a goddamn mask, right? And then then we play that scene out, right? But to see her take it off, be afraid of it, you know, I put it away. I don't like how it made me feel. I wasn't me. I heard my voice in my head, you know. But then, because I did like this detail in the adventure, then she's just like, well, can I see the mask? Right? Where did you put it? Right? So that could be, so then you could have a real conflict with a new triad, which is Curtis, the real Anna, and then Anna wearing the mask.
Yeah. And if you're really lucky, then there can be a point of decision in Curtis as well, because there's Anna, and then there's Knockout Anna,
right?
And, you know, if this mask has this power, then it should be able in some way to have an effect on Curtis, not in a taking away more decision way. Well, you know, you'd like to peel it off her, but you're not allowed because you failed the die roll kind of thing. But
right.
But this, you know, GM description can be that voice in the back of his head, right? So that the player can enjoy the experience of wrestling with themselves.
Do I keep Tanaka alive in the scenario? Do I just let him, go along
Honestly,
the riverbank?
If there is activity on Curtis's part to investigate Tanaka, then definitely. But I
That
was
makes it
thinking
easy.
that Tanaka's in there in case there are pushed rolls that get worse.
Yeah.
Then you can. Well, how do things get worse? Well, Tanaka is on Curtis's trail, or tying up loose ends, or something along those lines. And but it may not be necessary. Like what we've been talking about are things that can be done if Curtis doesn't get an investigation off the ground. If the player is left not really sure where to start, or if the player is just saying, well, I should focus on Anna, right? And if Anna storms out, and maybe he decides to tail her, and then she goes and meets with Emily, and they buy a dress, and they get ready. All they're doing is getting ready for the audition, and he kind of misses out on the adventure. Then Tanaka can catch up with him, and say, I know the box was delivered to your house. Who's wearing it? Right. And then now Curtis is in a position to have to lie or tell the truth or something. So if the scenario opens up with Dad storming in, and that's our kind of session recap, right? He storms in, he emasculates Lucas, he disinherits him, kicks them out of the brownstone, kind of thing. That kind of ramps up the tension. Where did Anna go? What's Anna doing? And or what are these masks? Why are the masks so important? Where can I find information about these masks? Right. Then it may not be necessary to involve Tanaka at all. Right. He may go to the hotel, straight to the horse's mouth to get information about the mask. Well, she's dead. Guy from last night, he's dead. His face is torn off. Oh no, Anna. Go rushing to Anna. Anna brushes him off, kind of thing. He has another chance to see that the thing is there, because he just watched the father do that earlier in the day. And then we have this, please, you've got to take it off. It's not you. He should have an opportunity to reach her, right? And then you can have your big finish, and either include the audition or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I think it'll come down. I think where I'm headed with a lot of your help is the finale is the fate of Anna and the fate of Curtis and Anna. And once we know how that ends, then we're done. Right. And there's a whole long list of possibilities. We could, the end of the scenario could potentially be she gets this audition, she becomes world famous, forgets everybody. And then you have, the coda at the end of, she's in an asylum, right? Or she kills herself or something like that. Or, they overcome this mask and somehow, get past it. But it doesn't look good for Anna, right? Because I think she's
a really strong tie-in to stars who have died young, that the 27 years old club. There's stuff that you can do that tie in with the player's lived experience.
So I think my game plan is he and I always meet 30 minutes before. I love the idea of going over the character sheet with him, and talking about, I did like the fact that he immediately understood how different Call of Cthulhu was than what he's played Star Wars with me or Blades in the Dark with me. He could tell it was different, but, I remember the first couple times playing, it's a different game, and you kind of don't know what you can do.
Right. And every time you look at the character sheet, there's this long list of skills that you don't
Exactly.
have,
Yeah.
which kind of starts, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't. You start, that has an effect, right? And they start
Yeah.
focusing on the things that you can do and trying to shoehorn a way into making that in this scene, rather than recognizing that what you need to do is go somewhere or talk to someone where that particular skill is relevant. And then on the
Yeah.
game master side is, when is this a role worthy event?
Yeah.
You know, because if we've got a character with a 30% skill, what does this represent? Or a 50% skill, or a 60 or a 70 or a 90? The game does talk about the relative levels of professionalism of these skills, and what things are we should expect them to be able to do if they have all the time.
Right. Table stakes. Yeah.
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 But so often it's just like, great, give me a whatever role, right? Give me a Latin role. Like, so today
I've got 2% Latin. Right.
And when instead we're discovering or building or supporting the character by, yes, this is what you're good at, right? So you go back to the what is it, the Brooklyn Gazette.
Yeah.
And it will take, there's a lot of files. It will probably take you an hour to 2 hours to track down all these leads, or you could roll.
Yeah.
You can do it
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I like the idea, because I mean, on the character sheet, the profession skills are checked, right? And I think going over that with Nick and saying, remember, like, go to the check marks. And I love your idea, Anthony, or the way you phrased it, which is, if you can't use these skills right now in this situation, get yourself in a situation where you can do something you're good at. I think that's a great way to phrase it for any player in any game. Instead of languishing and feeling like you have to be here. And in any role-playing game, you don't, right?
There's an expectation that the game master is going to deliver scenes.
Yeah.
And this is not the place for the conversation of why that psychology might develop, but people do tend to wait for the scene change.
Yep. And we've got to help the players with it. All right, my friend, this is very helpful. Now I am not nearly as bent out of shape about Thursday. Like, now I feel like I am, the world is the world is lived in again. It was all amorphous for me.
Well, you set up a lot of really good foundation points. I mean, it's really solid what was built. So everything that we talked about is built on the work that you've already done. So
yeah, well, it's really helpful to do this. And something else that you and I have talked about in chat that we just have to do is we've got to do, like, what we're doing right now. I think is extremely helpful, between sessions, having another GM watch the first session and then having conversations like this. I know as the GM is super helpful. I would enjoy being in your seat in that type of a conversation. But I also think that there's a lot of other people that would learn a lot by listening to these types of conversations. So I think you and I might have to talk about doing this again.
Sure. Love it. I think it's essential to have both sides of it.
Yeah.
And in a safe environment where we're not being defensive about, I made this decision because, or I was, but so that people can explain, I did this is why I did it, or this is how I did it. Or this is what I realized after, or things like that. And then we can talk about, what to do with it.
Yeah. It's good, my friend. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Always good talking to you.
You too.
Oh, well, actually, we're talking again soon.
This is true.
With Seth. So that'll be fun.
Have
you already got your questions figured out?
The end of the month. Yes, I have my questions for both of you.
I
don't know if I'll use them in the moment, but
yeah, a lot changes, right, as the conversation changes. So I think I know what I want to ask Seth. I think I'm going to have your question by conversation, because By that time, I will. So I'll ask Seth. Seth will ask you. You'll ask me, and then I'll bounce back to you. By then, there will have been enough conversation that I think I know, because we know each other, right? I think that the question will be obvious to me at that point. The one thing that I think is interesting, and I don't know if this will be a part of the question that I have for Seth or not, is, I mean, first of all, I'm such a fan of his channel. There's very few other channels that I will always go to find out whether a scenario is for me or not. And he does a little bit of what you and I were just talking about. Seth does a great job of saying, here's what I changed and here's why I changed it, which is my favorite pieces, right? To his thing. What I realized though, is that I know I've never seen Seth run a game, and I don't know if anybody has that hasn't been at his table. So I'd be very curious what kind of GM he is. So I wonder, that might be my angle. I haven't decided yet.
Right. Yeah, his home group isn't interested in doing live plays.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. Like there's a reason why the group of people that I get to play with on Sundays, when I have a schedule that allows me to play with them, they're actually up for recording the plays. I'm not. There has to be some of my games that can just be played.
That's my home game. I've got a home game, and some of the people in my home game have been on the channel, but yeah, one of the guys was like, we should just record this. I'm like, I don't want to. I do that, right? I got 7 freaking games going right now that I'm recording. I want to just play. I want to not worry about entertaining anybody. I don't want to, worry about pace, and is this a good time to take a break? And I just want to play.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
all right. Talk soon, man. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye.
Cheers.
Okay. That's it. I hope you found our discussion to be helpful or relevant to your own play. This wasn't a comprehensive or complete discussion by any stretch of the imagination. There's lots of different things that can and could or might happen in play that we didn't discuss. A big one being the possible team up of Lucas and Curtis to solve the problem of Anna having the mask, right? And there's a whole bunch of exciting opportunities that open up when we consider that possibility. But what I hope has been communicated is not that two game masters sat down and figured out a series of scenes or encounters in which to place the player character or player characters. Instead, what we were doing was discussing who the characters are, what the characters' motivations are, what their backgrounds are, and what they've done in the previous session, what has been established as truth in the previous session. And based on who they are, what it's likely they might do next. And that's as far as we can go with the planning, right? So we take the concept of the father and say, well, he's this kind of character. And so obviously the next step he's going to take is this. And that's as far as the planning goes, right? There's some kind of confrontation there, or there's some kind of interaction, or this sparks an investigation. So we're looking at things that are the beginnings of ideas, that are the beginnings of encounters, and the easiest source or the clearest source of information about what do I do next, either as a player or as a game master with a host of characters to play, is who is this character? What is their personality? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What skills do they have? Do they have some kind of schedule or agenda, or are there events in motion around that character based on what happened the last time that are dictating what they or the people around them or the people who are expecting them to do something, want to have happen? So when we approach play this way, it provides an ample open space for improvisation, for things to be specifically yours and to be drawn on the things that make your game mastering, the things that make the people that you play with their play. And the outcomes are unexpected and interesting and drawn from who you all are as players of the game. So if this means that you leave the beaten track established or predicted by the scenario, that probably is a good thing. So anyway, until the next time, take care. How are you feeling?
Good. Good. I really enjoyed your feedback, man. It was so good. You're very good at that.
Did you get a little tear in your eye?
I mean, I'm never going to GM again. No, everything you said made sense. Everything you said made sense. And there was ways you were coming at things I had not thought of, but I was feeling, if that makes any sense.
Sure. That makes sense.
Which is part of the reason I'm frustrated about Thursday, because I'm stuck. But we'll talk about that.